The MMA Show on SRBRadio.com.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in internet land, and welcome to the MMA Show. Coming up in this show, we're reviewing UFC 196, McGregor vs Diaz, UFC Fight Night, Silva vs Bisping, Bellator 149, Shamrock vs Gracie, and we'll also be previewing next month's show, UFC 197, Cormier vs Jones. If you want to contact the show, please email us on the MMA Show number 7, that's the MMA Show numerical 7, at gmail.com, and we'll be happy to receive your feedback, comments and any suggestions. Well, in tonight's show I have a special guest, a long-time friend and Uki from West Midlands Jiu-Jitsu in Birmingham. A shout out to Sensei Walker and all the crew. It's Marcus the Beast Cottrell. How are you, Marcus?
Well, good evening, girl. Good morning. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm all right, thank you. I'm quite excited. That when I first learned about this thing that you've started, and I'm happy to help out in any way that I can. Having a chat about MMA with a good friend hardly seems like work, so I think it's going to be nice.
But I think we started Japanese Jiu-Jitsu nearly 20 years ago.
Yeah, it must be.
Mid-late 90s.
I remember, yeah, back in the day when we were younger and fitter and...
Friend and Uki.
Yeah.
But I think Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, if it was taught right, it is actually MMA.
Yeah, you're right, because it covers so many parts of combat.
Yeah, because you've got the stand-up,
correct.
You've got the kicks, you've got the punches, and then you've got all the groundwork as well. So you've got the locks, the chokes, the holds.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the stuff we used to do from hip throw onto the ground. And you remember we used to get into the armbar?
I do remember that. And also, if you look back at the history of it, I think this is one of the reasons that a lot of the troops during some of the world wars, First and Second World War, were introduced to this, because should some of these soldiers ever find themselves in a situation, at least they had an understanding of what to do. And I'm sure, like everyone will tell you that's been unfortunate to be in a fight, there's no rules when it comes to a fight. And if you can cover the things like the round, like the strikes, the kicks, whatever situation you can find yourself in, and you've got a reasonable bit of intelligence and understanding of a technique, potentially it could save your life. So, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. The original art in Japan 2,000 years ago was for the samurai when they became unarmed, and it was hand-to-hand combat.
Correct, that's right.
So if they fell off their horse or they couldn't have their weapons for some reason, it was maim the opponent as soon as possible. That's why we did so many. Remember the joint locks, chokes, the breaks of the arm from the double wrist lock, which in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu they named it Kimura.
And I think that's a really good point, because should a warrior in those days have found himself without weapons, and he was facing an adversary, the only weapons he had were those that he was naturally born with, which were his,
And you didn't want to start a fight. You wanted to finish that guy
as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
If you break his arm or break his neck, he's not going to really be much use in a fight. So
correct.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu obviously is very important, and so
it is
wrestling. But I think if someone did Japanese Jiu-Jitsu properly, 30% groundwork, 30% say kicks, 30% punches, and the rest of it sort of the positional play. Well, don't forget the takedowns when we used to do single leg, double leg, the trips. I can't remember all the names, but
no, you're right.
And throw and half shoulder, and
I think the majority of professional fighters that you see will tell you that most fights start standing up, but sooner or later, I would say the majority of fights always end up on the floor. And that was the great thing that you touched upon earlier about the traditional jiu-jitsu. You'll learn how to stand, you'll learn footwork, strikes, etc. But you'll also learn what to do, even if it means landing well on the floor, not necessarily having a technique to get you out of trouble, landing well enough to get away.
Your break falls.
Exactly, your
break
break
falls.
Which
you learned in white belts, but
which we learn right
you carry
from the
that through.
That's right. Knowing how to land properly. I mean, I read an article about a guy a couple of maybe 3 or 4 years ago, a black belt 2 or 3 down in karate, gets into a street fight, lands heavily, lands wrongly, ends up, dying.
Yeah, you hear people hitting their head on the curb or...
Correct. I think that's what happened to him.
Yeah.
And you hit the ground so quickly you just don't realise.
No.
I mean, when we used to do throws, on crash mats, purpose-built crash mats, we'd fall,
But in the winter, those mats were bloody
like
hard.
concrete. Exactly, yeah. But we kind of knew how to break the fall, and land and get back up. That's the important thing, getting back up, so that you can either fight your adversary, fight your opponent, or get away.
Yeah, whatever the situation demanded. But
I agree.
I think one of the best things we did for a bit was when someone would push you by surprise.
From the back, and we go into a forward somersault, or at least slap the floor.
Or, and turn your head away so your chin doesn't crack.
Chin, nose, etc. Yeah. Just protecting our vital parts. What is it that Terry Silva used to say? The Karate Kid Part 3, man who can't see, can't fight, look after yourself.
I think that's where McGregor was going, but unfortunately he did get seen and got cracked a few times.
Yes, Connor.
So let's move into McGregor versus Diaz. What did you think, starting with McGregor versus Diaz?
So I'm a big fan of both fighters. I think from what McGregor has come from, and I think he's backed it up as well. You look at who he's beaten: Mendes, Poirier. Aldo knocking the best pound for pound, hadn't been beaten in 10 years, out in 13 seconds like he predicted. I admire the guy. I'm also a big fan of Nate and Nick. I really love those characters.
They're proper fighters, aren't they?
Never give up, always in for an entertaining
biggest
fight.
Heart as well.
And supremely talented guys, great stand-up. Nick's stand-up particularly,
his boxing,
superb, and a great ground game, and Nate great on the floor too.
Yeah.
But going back to the fight with Nate and Connor, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I think it was a fair result. I think the weight that McGregor went up to, I think he weighed in on weigh day
168 or something.
I think so. Nate 169. So I guess Nate's fighting at about 175, 178.
It wasn't a true welterweight fight.
No, it wasn't.
Because they normally weigh 190, even in Johnny Hendrick's case, 250 pounds. Or
look at Alves. Remember Thiago Alves when he fought GSP? He must have been 210 pounds on that night.
And they cut back to 170, and then, like you say, they can add 20,
just balloon,
25.
Don't they?
So with a welterweight, you're normally fighting someone who's about 190 pounds.
Yeah.
I think GSP used to put on at least 15.
GSP, total athletes.
Especially towards the middle and end.
I agree.
But I thought McGregor, the disappointment for me was he didn't show much heart. In two aspects, he got punched for 15 seconds, and he got visibly rocked.
He went for that takedown,
and that was desperation.
That exactly.
It was like, don't punch me no more.
I
want to go to ground.
And also, I think usually when Conor connects with that left, people go down. Now a welterweight like Nate, he's a bigger guy.
He's big weight.
Got a superb chin. And when things didn't go to plan, and he looked gassed as well. After about 3 or 4 minutes, I would say Conor was more or less done.
Halfway through the second round,
he was done. I think beginning of the second he was done.
Because I think in the first round he looked like he gave everything. He got Diaz with at least 5 or 6 that big, like you said,
and he didn't go
in the
anywhere.
featherweight. The 2 or 3 would have, made him crumble.
Yeah.
But weight, heart, and chin, and experience. Diaz said himself, "I've been around for nearly 10 years in the UFC, on and off."
Diaz,
20 fights.
On his day, Nate Diaz can beat anybody at 150. I think Nate's probably a 170er. I know he does fight at 155, but he just looked in good condition at 170.
Yeah.
Maybe he fights at 155 and goes up to 170, 175 for fight night.
He was at 170. Was it 3 years ago? But then he got ragdolled by Rory McDonald. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
And that's when he went down.
He
got ragdolled by Rory McDonald. But he's a beast as well.
Correct. He is. He is a beast. But yes, I think McGregor started off well, and really it was a bit of a boxing clinic to start with. He was catching Nate left, right, and centre.
Sweeps with that left hand and
very good.
The body as well.
Yeah, I thought he probably should have done more body kicks and maybe more front leg kicks and kicks to the leg just to slow Nate up, a bit like RDA did when they fought. But I think Conor's supreme belief in his own abilities probably was his undoing. That left
he
wasn't
underestimated he overestimated his left
Yeah.
and underestimated Diaz's chin.
Yes, I think you're absolutely
And that
right.
combination just...
And it was over he was looking worried towards the end of the first. He'd been peppered a few more times.
Yeah, you're right. He starts to come back.
And that's the thing about the Diaz brothers. They're volume punchers. I'm sure it's either Bisping or Nick Diaz who number one with the amount of punches thrown and landed.
Yeah, 1 and 2.
And Nate's the same. Look at what he did to Cowboy all those years ago. And I'm a big Cowboy fan.
Cowboy's one of the elite stand-up fighters, and he looked pedestrian against Diaz.
Now I'd have bet money that Cowboy
Diaz slapped him around.
Yeah.
Well, Diaz did it before the McGregor fight to
Michael Johnson.
He's very good stand-up.
Beast, Michael Johnson.
Yeah.
I mean, he's come from nowhere. He was in a TUF, I think, originally.
Yeah.
I don't think he won TUF that year. It was the first time I saw him. Then I didn't come across him for about another 18 months. And he was a different fighter altogether. Now, when I found out that Michael Johnson was fighting Nate, I thought it's going to be a tough night for Nate. Nate weathered the first round and a half, just came back.
He just controlled it.
Yeah,
controlled him and controlled the fight.
His stamina's good. He seems to get stronger as the fight goes on.
And he's done his Stockton slap.
The Stockton slap. I do not want to stop. I want that on record. I don't want a Stockton slap. My wife's given me a Stockton slap.
I think we've all had that. But I think when he caught Johnson with a really hard left, and he just folded his arm and smiled and said, "Oh, that hurt you, didn't it?"
Yeah. That's the great thing about the Diaz brothers. They've got real ring craft now. Yeah. They've got the haters as well. I mean, I was reading Sherdog earlier, and I can't believe they still get... I mean, how can you not love the likes of the Diaz, Nick...
Well, they come off the street, and they could have gone the other way.
Yeah.
You can imagine what environment they were in Stockton, near Los Angeles. But martial arts, they got into jiu-jitsu, saves at Gracie's gym since they were kids. And like you say, kept them out of prison. And now they're pretty well off guys. So,
and you know what as well? I think an interesting point is that I think behind the scenes, I think Diaz is respect. Yeah, I think that they are really nice guys.
But McGregor was trying to make fun of Nate Diaz, in the first press conference in that gym. Yeah. Did you see that one?
Yes, I think I did.
And he was saying, he teaches kids on Sunday.
Yeah.
I was thinking, why would you make fun of that?
No, that's a cool thing.
That's giving back to the community.
Yeah.
And he was saying, he does bike rides with the elderly. Why would you make fun of that?
So what?
I think McGregor dropped a ball there. Trying to be too funny.
I think he's gone down the Chael Sonnen line, and he's trying to hype the fight, get as many pay-per-views, because ultimately he'll benefit from that.
I think he's taking it out of context.
Yeah, that's right. But I also think he has tremendous respect for the Diaz. And I've seen an interview where Conor McGregor has said, I genuinely like the Diaz brothers. And who knows, they might very well be friends behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, straight after in the cage, they did shake hands, and Diaz initiated the going over to Conor, because Conor was on a stool.
Yeah, I saw that,
because he was obviously recovering, and Diaz went over. I thought that animosity would stay, but the whole coaching staff, they went over to each other and shook hands.
Very respect, and that's how it should be.
And Jake Shields was part of it.
Yeah,
and he's a proper martial artist as well.
Shields, a very underrated guy. I mean, didn't get the win, never got the strap when he was at the UFC.
His stand-up was pretty poor.
His stand-up was awful.
But his obviously grappling was
unbelievable. GSP said so himself.
If it was the old UFC,
he'd probably be world champ.
He would have been,
GSP said so as well. I never want to go to ground.
Shields, and GSP, did make him look... kept the distance, killed his jab, and then made him look very ordinary.
GSP, that's a whole other program. But what a genius! He moved UFC on. He's people saw GSP, realised just how good they had to become to be
raised
UFC.
Everyone else's level.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you think he'll come back? He was there on the.
He was. Do I think he'll come back? I'm not sure he will. I'm not sure he's anything to prove. I mean, how long
he doesn't need money.
Doesn't need money.
He's
Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva was the fight everybody wanted. Silva's damaged himself now, I think, beyond redemption with the steroids thing, and I actually think we'll come on to Bisping later. But, so do I think GSP will come back? No, I'm not sure he will.
I can't see the motivation unless it's one of those Rocky type things. Something's missing. But I can't. Looking at from the outside in, I can't see what's
he got to prove as well. Who does he fight? Does he go straight for Lawler?
He retired undefeated. He's obviously a multi-millionaire, so I don't know. It's unless there's something in him that we don't know.
I mean, I'd watch it if he came back.
Oh,
I've always thought he's an
only
absolute...
34.
Is that all he is as well?
Yeah, still early to mid 30s.
Yeah, so a lot of UFC fight. Look at Lawler. Lawler came back to be world champion at his mid 30s.
Yeah,
so yeah, potentially he could come back, and I think he'd probably beat virtually all of the welterweights too, unless he went up to middleweight. Some big middleweights out there at the moment, so I think he'd stick to welter, and yeah, he'd probably be world champ again. But there's other fights I'd like to see rather than GSP coming back. I didn't find his style of fighting boring. I thought he was a very smart fighter with a great coach and just superb abilities.
Their strategy was always
spot on.
Yeah.
A fantastic wrestler. He made stuff look.
Well, he
so
was one
easy.
of the few, we were talking about it earlier, where he's naturally a stand-up guy. Karate was his main discipline,
and a great stand-up fighter as well.
Yeah. And he embraced wrestling, and probably in MMA wrestling, top 2 or top 3,
probably.
Yeah.
I mean, there was talk of him going to the Olympics at one point.
Yes,
and I think as
London
a fight,
2012 was
as
it?
a fight fell and he was training for a fight, he didn't have enough time to dedicate. But potentially he could have gone. He's so athletic and so naturally gifted. I guess he could have done anything and succeeded.
But just to finish off on McGregor versus Diaz, I think McGregor tapped early. I don't know what you think.
I don't think he was thinking straight. I think he was that gassed.
Yeah.
He physically he was broken down.
Exhausted.
The left hooks, the straight lefts, they hadn't worked.
Yeah.
He
gave everything in that left.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he was done within the first 5 minutes. I don't think he was thinking straight. I think he went down. He did actually. When you rewatch the fight, he did a nice move on Diaz in the first round. Diaz went to ground. With on top of McGregor. McGregor reversed that, got on top of Diaz, and I thought, wow, that's great. When they stood up afterwards, he was breathing heavy then, and I thought he's in a bit of trouble here. So he was kind of desperate, didn't want to get punched in the face anymore. Yeah. And you're a shark, and you're in the water when you're in Diaz on the floor. Yeah. And I thought Diaz was cool in the sense that when was it Herb Dean refereeing?
Yes, it was.
Herb sort of stopped, kind of tapped Herb, and he left it on there for a split second, but he let it go afterwards.
Yeah.
Someone like Pal Harris, it'd still be on, wouldn't it?
Yes, probably his windpipe would have been pretty much severely damaged. But I think question marks over Conor's heart. I think.
Yeah. Okay.
2 from stand up. Yes, Diaz is a very hard puncher, but McGregor has given the persona that he'll fight through anything. Well, which he wouldn't. He's just proven that. And tapping, I was expecting from a rear naked choke some sort of squirming, some sort of movement, something, because he was getting ground and pounded, and then he gave up his back, which is always a dangerous thing to do. Yeah. But I think because when remember Sage Northcutt, he tapped early,
very early. That's right.
But no one said it. Joe Rogan never said anything. I listened to the other shows. What's the other one? Ariel Helwani.
Yeah, I know.
The MMA Hour. No one's really questioned
touched upon that.
Whereas Sage Northcutt did it.
Yeah. His
poor kid got sore.
Yeah,
he's only 19.
I know.
Actually, Rafael Das Anjos was on the MMA Hour yesterday.
Right.
And he did say Holly Holm went to sleep, rather go to sleep than tap.
Yeah.
Whereas the Conor tapped way too quickly.
Yeah, Holly did go to sleep, didn't she?
Yeah.
Well, I think
there's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu code that if you're getting choked, just go to sleep because you'll wake up again.
Right. Okay.
Whereas if your arm's getting broken, then tap because obviously you could be upset. That's what I think Das Anjos was saying. He said, choke, so what? You go to sleep, you wake up.
Well, aren't McGregor's 3 losses all from submission then?
Yeah, the one before this was Joseph Duffy.
That's right.
Was that a knee bar or was that choke?
It was a quick fight, whatever it was, and Duffy did a great job.
I know there's choke, knee bar, and now another choke.
Yeah, okay.
And I think at this age, at this level, because he is in the elite now, can he actually fix those gaps?
Well, that's a good point. I think he's learned some important things.
Because he kept saying, I've learned, I fixed it.
Yeah, no, he clearly hasn't.
Diaz of 10 days notice.
Yeah, I know. Well, yes, I think he's learned not to go up to welterweight again, or not fight at catchweight at 168. I think his perfect weight is probably 155. So I presume
he doesn't have to cut down too much.
Yeah.
Have you seen him in 145? He looks like
he looks like the machinist, Christian Bale film. it's too much, and I think the long-term health effects of dieting so much, dehydrating yourself, starving yourself, it can't be good.
It's classic yo-yo dieting.
So I think he sticks at 155. I think he fights RDA. I think he's got more than a good chance of beating RDA.
But you know what RDA will do now? He'll just try to take him to ground.
That's the thing.
And he's a very good grappler.
He is. I'm not sure they'll have quite the strength and the size advantage that Nate Diaz would have against McGregor. I think they're more evenly matched. I think McGregor will be fitter and a bit quicker as well. It's going to be a great fight.
And his cardio will be in check.
Yeah, I think so.
Because he hasn't ballooned up 20 odd pounds. But
taking nothing away from Rafael, he's an absolute, he's a Tasmanian devil. Yeah. Look at what I'm a huge fan of Cowboy.
Oh, Cowboy.
And what he did to Cowboy, I'll never forgive him what he did. Cowboy didn't turn up for that fight. I heard a lot of...
That was 2 minutes into one round.
Well, I heard...
A minute and a half.
He didn't warm up. He's always been a slow starter, Cowboy. There's some mental problem that he can't seem to conquer.
He's acknowledged that many a time.
Because when he gets going, Cowboy's potential world champion. He's just had, there's a who's who of who he's beaten to get that Rafael down.
Well, he won 7 in a row, or 8
7 or 8 in a row. Yeah. And it's who he beat: Barboza, Miller. He beat Benson Henderson, Eddie Alvarez. Fantastic fights. And so I think Conor defends at 145. I presume against Frankie.
Now.
Yeah, or
Frankie
relinquishes.
Or even Aldo, maybe.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Either of those two, or relinquishes the title and goes for the 155 strap.
Yeah.
So it hasn't really hurt his stock that much.
No.
He always had a way out of this fight, which was I'm not big enough. All right, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
I wasn't as efficient as I should have been.
Still got his belt.
Still got the belt, and he's the first British champion we've had for forever. Is it?
British and Irish.
Irish. Yeah.
Apologies to our Irish fans.
Yeah.
He's Irish.
I'm half Irish myself.
So I know what you mean, European, British Isles.
We haven't gone close, has he? So
I mean, the only guy who is Dan Hardy, George St. Pierre. Remember Dan Hardy's George St. Pierre?
Yeah, he fought. Yeah, I think he fought more. He was a colourful character. He got his shot.
He had a few good wins. He was good stand-up, Shaolin Kung Fu and kickboxing.
Is he coming back? I don't know.
I don't know. He does a lot of work for BT Sport, doesn't he? On the
he does a good job as well. I've got to say.
And he goes into the cage and interviews.
And I think he's well liked in those.
He's well spoken, and he's a good. Obviously, he's got the
understands the game.
Yeah, exactly. He's a fighter. But moving on to the co-main event at UFC 96, Holly Holm and Misha Tate. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, disappointment really at Holly's performance. I think she said so herself. She just didn't seem to quite have the success that she did against Ronda. I mean, that will go down in history. Just what she did to Ronda Rousey. She made her look as amateur.
Stupid.
Yeah. And so I don't think Holly really got started. She was smart in the sense of keeping away from Misha.
I think that was a big difference. Joe Rogan was saying on commentary, Ronda was walking in a straight line.
Into her, yeah.
And you see, if you're a very good counter, but if you got technique, you can pick people off. But Misha Tate, they obviously studied that, and she was circling, moving up and down, changing levels, and then shooting. So Holly couldn't really get any rhythm. So I think that was the big difference. I'm
not sure Misha is going to be a long-term world champion, though. I would imagine Ronda will come back. She's beaten Cupcake twice.
Yeah, Strikeforce and in the UFC.
So
Submission twice.
Yeah, and then maybe
I think she broke her arm in Strikeforce.
Yeah, you could be right.
I think so.
And then I presume Ronda gets the belt back. Then whether or not she defends against Holly again,
I think she'll have to. I think she'll honour it, and I think she'll want to reprieve of that loss as well. But
I'm not sure she's right. A very unstable individual she seems
Ronda.
to me. Yeah,
some of the stuff that came out.
And she just looks really affected by that.
Like when she's high, it's amazing, but when she got low, it was like whoom.
I mean, she said she's
suicide, and
that's right. Like that. I saw some of the interviews she did on American television
on the chat shows,
and she's going out with that guy now, Travis. And I'm not sure he's right for her mental state. He's a bit of a dirtbag, isn't he? So. Yeah, but no, I think the good thing was that Holly Holm got $500,000. Is that right?
Yeah, Misha Tate got $92,000.
Wow.
That's a win bonus as well, so doubled it.
What a discrepancy in amount. That just goes to show.
The best guy, the guy that was smiling all the way to the bank was Conor. He got $1 million for losing.
Yeah,
I think Diaz must have got $1 million after he won.
Yeah, because there's that great interview where McGregor says something like, "It feels great to be a millionaire, doesn't it?" And Diaz comes out with a classic line, "I'm gonna go and buy some nice SHIT." Yeah, hilarious. And I think even McGregor laughed at that. But I would imagine Misha will get a bit more of a payout. I mean, that doesn't sound great to me. You're a professional fighter putting everything on the line. You come out with 90,000. Maybe they get points at the other end. I guess it's for the
pay-per-view
and the sponsorship deals. Although I don't think Reebok pays that much.
$10,000 for
new pair of trainers.
A new top and.
She's very professional, though, Misha. She looks great. She's good behind classy. The camera, in front of the camera. Yeah. Very knowledgeable. So
you can't be grudging.
No, you can't knock her, and it's nice for her to get her time because she's done a lot.
She's been
for the
around
sport.
a long time.
She's helped move women's MMA on, as well as Ronda and Holly. So so I would imagine look to the rematch between her and Ronda anytime soon.
Could be UFC 200.
200's coming up. There's a lot of names, a lot of
I'm not sure
matchups.
Who would be the main event for that. I'm not sure now. It would have been McGregor and Dos Anjos possibly. Depends on his injury, but
is GSP? Are they setting him up to come back at 200?
I don't think there'll be enough time.
I've heard.
I can't think because I was looking at UFC.com and 199 is Rockhold Weidman, the rematch. 198 is. Vadum and Miocic.
Miocic,
yeah. That's 198, and obviously 197 is Jones and Cormier. So I'm thinking 200. Who could it be?
Well, I've heard
Diaz, Aldo.
Well, I've heard that. Quite possibly
Aldo McGregor.
Or
Frankie
quite possibly
McGregor.
I've heard there's rumours they're looking at Bisping and Nick Diaz as his first fight back after suspension, which the trash talk in that would be epic.
That would be amazing. Diaz would win, but
it would be at 185 as well.
Yeah.
And Nick is a good 185er.
Yeah.
He holds the weight well. His cardio doesn't suffer, and he punches with lead. That guy.
Yeah, I mean, and the technique they show, the way they walk down people. To the because he walked down Paul Daly.
That's a great Semtex. That's a
Semtex is lethal.
Man, that guy can throw some leather.
And Diaz was not scared to stand up. He could have taken him to ground, locked him up.
Well, he knocked Diaz down. Yeah, exactly. Diaz, he's got that granite chin
and that
just
heart.
Stood back up and
egging him on, saying,
yeah, that's a great fight.
Yeah, but he's still around in Bellator, Daly.
Is he? Yes, he is.
He fought a few months ago.
He was meant to fight Koscheck. Koscheck got injured, I think.
Yeah. But sticking to UFC 196, I think the third fight was Latifi and Vellante.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a stalemate, wasn't it?
I think they kind of cancelled each other out a bit.
Latifi had the couple of big slams, which looked impressive.
Yeah,
and he's obviously a bull of a man.
Very strong looking guy.
Yeah, he's built more like a powerlifter. But it wasn't a great fight, and
had undercard written on it, and I think it got people, got people
but
going.
I think the right choice, right decision.
Yeah, I think so.
He did enough.
Yeah,
Vellante seemed slow, and I mean before that they were talking about knockouts because they're both big punchers, but like you say, they were probably too wary of each other and kept enough distance. Yeah, where you're not really going to get
a lot of mutual respect.
Yeah,
and I think they're both stuck to their strengths.
Yeah, exactly. And the on the main card was it Corey Anderson and
Corey
Tom
Anderson.
Lawler?
Yeah, I mean Lawler's been around for a while.
I thought Tom Lawler won that.
I think they got the wrong call there.
Yeah,
I mean Corey Anderson,
he got 30-27 with all three judges because he must have won the first round.
I don't understand that
because he took him to ground.
Yeah, I'd have thought
he shook him. He was on rubber legs.
Yeah,
Corey was.
And I don't really want to
split. You can maybe understand, but 3 rounds.
I don't think I want to see another Corey Anderson fight. They seem to be more or less the same.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a professional fighter. He got the job done. He got the W. But you can get more work in the UFC by losing in a great fight than you can winning a kind of a stalemate.
And winning a fight of the night or something and getting a bonus.
That's right.
And
that's right.
I don't think he's championship material.
I agree. I don't think if he carries on with performances like that, I don't think he'll stay relevant.
No.
And he'll be in Bellator or something.
Yeah. And it was light heavy, wasn't it?
Yeah,
205.
205ers.
I mean, you got Daniel Cormier,
They're
John
never going to
Jones,
get close,
Anthony Johnson,
Gustafsson.
Gustafsson.
Bader lost, but he's still
there. Yeah.
Rashad Evans is making a comeback as well, apparently.
Yeah. I've made a note of that. He's on one of the cards in April, I think.
Do you know who his opponent is? His opponent been named
It's Shogun.
Yes,
classic fight. Yeah,
two huge names. Shogun, goodness me, Shogun's still standing. That guy. He's a bit like JDS in the punishment he's taken over the years. But once again, tough as nails. I think a real dedicated individual, and I think a cool guy to go out and have a few drinks with afterwards and a good chat. Some of the stories that Cat could come up with,
Oh yeah.
But I like Shogun. But I would imagine Rashad will win. Just smother him, wrestle him, and sit on him probably.
Just use a strategy and take him down when he wants to. Stand him up when he wants to.
Yeah, I think so.
Combine that and probably get a point. So he's still got a good knockout.
Rashad. Yeah, he doesn't get a lot of love really, Rashad, but he's very good at what he does, and he's a good spoiler.
Yeah.
So someone like Shogun, he'll come out and he'll take him out of his comfort zone.
Yeah.
And he won't allow him to do the things that Shogun's good at.
He won't allow him to settle.
Yeah, exactly.
Into a rhythm.
I mean, Shogun's got a good submission game. I don't think I've really seen him
underrated.
submit too many.
Yeah, I think because he was so good stand-up.
Yeah.
He just used to kick people to death.
Yeah. I think you're born in Brazil and you become a fighter, you get your black in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. All those guys come from a good, solid ground base.
It's a national sport.
Like
football. Yeah.
In the right hands, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is so effective.
So lethal. Yeah.
Deadly.
I think if it was still the old days, one style, it'd probably still be the top.
Well, that was the great thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Do you remember UFC 1, I think, where Ken Shamrock, roided up to the eyeballs, 250 pounds of blood clot, gristle and muscle, and he's fighting Gracie, who's probably 185.
Something like that.
And Gracie, what Gracie
What's
does...
12.5 stone against 15 stone?
It's historic what he does. I mean, you'd have bet money on Shamrock just slamming him through the mat.
Looking at them, yeah.
Or GSP used to come up with that line... technique will always beat strength. And that's just about epitomises everything, doesn't it? Yeah, fantastic. I mean, Gracie, a one-off, that guy, just supreme.
You got to respect him. But okay, I think that's UFC 196 reviewed. Moving on to the next item is UFC Fight Night London, which was in I think February the 27th. And that was Silva versus Bisping. That was a classic fight.
I agree. I mean, well done, Michael Bisping.
Yeah. Controversial.
Just strange because Bisping did what he was good at, which is pick and move.
Volume.
He's a smart boxer.
Yeah.
You can see his footwork. Brilliant. Really gets him out of trouble.
He's not there to be hit.
And on his day, Bisping, I mean, he certainly showed people what he's capable of. He stung the Spider. He knocked him down. He came back from that wicked knee,
flying knee,
bizarre, and also that front kick as well to the face.
Yeah.
But Anderson Silva, I don't know what goes wrong. What goes on in that guy's head?
Celebrating, didn't he? So.
And he's not listening to his trainers. His trainers are telling him there's another round to go.
Yeah.
He's waving him off, convinced that he's won. I think Herb Dean did the right thing. I know you meant to stop the fight and allow the other fighter to pick his mouth guard up, but
no, apparently you're not supposed to do that.
Is that right?
Yeah, because Herb Dean was on one of the shows, I think, the MMA Hour.
Right.
And he says the reason they don't do that, if someone's getting the pasting, battering, they could spit their gum shield out in the middle of that, and they could get 10 seconds to. So if your gum shield goes, if you lose your gum shield,
that's it. Carry on.
They have got discretion, but they have to wait till there's a lull.
Right.
So maybe two fighters just start backing off each other. Then you can say, right, nothing's happening.
Yeah.
So lulling the action, it's sort of paused by itself. Then you can stop it and say gum shield. But Anderson was on the attack, so no way could he stop it.
And I think a lot of these referees, they're aware of how long they've got that. Well,
exactly, clock. And Bisping's a fighter, so he's not aware of every rule. It does seem sensible. I've lost my gum shield. I don't want my teeth to get knocked out. Give him a gum shield, but if you put it like people could start spitting their gum shield out to get 10 seconds rest, then I think that was the right thing. But
I think to come back from that knee as well, showed real resilience and toughness.
Had Silva followed up with even 2 or 3 punches, Herb Dean would have stopped it.
It was over, that's right. It was
because Bisping did lose all his senses.
He was
his
gone.
Head went down.
He was gone.
And I think, was it 5 or 10 seconds, the bell went?
Yeah.
Very quickly afterwards.
Well, that's the strange thing. He was still groggy coming out for the next round.
Well, yeah, but you get a minute for a rest, so even a minute wasn't really
enough. It just wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And then Anderson's clowning around then. Yeah. I don't understand. I mean, surely you go in for the kill.
On the one hand, he still got it, but why would you do that? His hands were down, he was bobbing and weaving and...
A similar situation in the 5th round.
He's not 34 anymore or 35. He's 40.
Maybe he's just got that belief, along similar.
Maybe he's done it so long,
and he thinks this I can get myself out of trouble at any time.
But I thought Weidman knocking him out. That's exactly what he did. Pointing to his chin and doing all that, and then Weidman said, "Okay, I'll punch you," and he was out. Yeah. So he hasn't really learned, but maybe it's ingrained in him.
But I think the decision was right. I think Bisping clearly did enough to win.
3-2.
Yeah, I think that's 4-1, 3-2. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And well done, Bisping.
I can never understand why Bisping never got a title shot. He's got 20 wins, 18 wins out of 24 or something.
He's
ridiculous.
Prolific, yeah. And you
look
at
the UFC. This is not MMA.
Yeah, and you look at who he's lost to. I mean, it's a who's who of who he's lost to.
Vanderlei Silva, Chelsea.
They're not punks. They're real fighters.
Dan Henderson.
Yeah.
I think that's about it. Who else did he lose to?
Rockhold beat him.
Yeah, Rockhold. Yeah.
Did he fight? He fought Belfort. Yeah.
Yeah, Belfort beat him. Okay, fine. Yeah.
Okay.
And the very, very
top, the high level guys.
They're all fought or been champion.
Well, Bisping is certainly still relevant, and he's put his name back in the hat.
I think one more good win, maybe Diaz or someone who's in the top.
Jacare's around. Romero's off. He's got busted for juicing.
And he's taken some dodgy supplements.
Anderson Silva, he's got past Silva. So if Rockhold beats Weidman, which I probably think he will do, maybe Bisping gets the rematch. Yeah. The thing is, though, Rockhold's he's a different conversation here, but he's a.
I don't think Bisping will go straight back into. I think he's maybe one more fight they might give him, and then see what happens. He's got a winning, convincing style, I think.
Well, the other side is he's a potential matchup if someone's injured.
Yeah,
and they need
he's always
somebody.
In shape.
He's very professional,
and he's willing to short notice.
He's not scared.
He doesn't
of
bother about styles and stuff. No. He's like Connor. He's got confidence in his own ability.
He's got onions, so fair play to him. He potentially does deserve a world title shot.
But do you think Silva's got it in him to get another title shot?
I think he probably has. I mean, it just depends which Silva turns up.
Yeah,
that's the thing. You've got to say to him. I don't know what. I mean, he's a coach unto himself, a bit like BJ. Nobody tells BJ what to do. No, exactly. I train myself.
Yeah.
And because he's performed at the highest levels, he's got to come in focused and just go for a kill, basically.
But I think it was an extremely good performance because he's had 2 fights in 2 years, broken leg, suspension, and he still looked very sharp.
A naturally fit guy.
Yeah, exactly. And his cardio was good, 5 rounds.
And that was a full-on 25 minutes of
it was a battle.
Fighting. Yes.
Back and forth. Totally knockdowns and kicks and... So I think he's still got the cardio, he's still got some level of his technique, well, a lot of his technique, some level of his sharpness, because he did evade quite a few punches doing it that way. I don't agree with him still keeping his hands down, but he's still got it. So I think it's mental. If he's mentally wants the title, then say, adios, I'm out of here, possibly. But next fight for him?
I would have thought he'll stick at middleweight. He doesn't really want to go upstairs.
Not at his age now.
No, I agree.
Because wasn't there talk of Belfort in Brazil?
Yes.
Because that 198 in Brazil,
yes, he beat Belfort a few years ago with that front kick, that Steven Seagal front kick. That would be interesting.
Seagal, get it right.
Excuse me. Yeah. He's lost his aura a bit because he's been beaten a bit a few times.
It's not the same as
that cloak of invincibility has gone.
Yeah.
But on his day, he's got skills. Oh. Well, if I was to say, maybe Jacare, that'd be an interesting fight. Maybe Belfort, like you say.
Yeah.
I think Weidman and him probably won't cross paths again.
No.
So there's certainly potential for him.
Yeah, I think there's a few good matchups for him, and he kept saying during the build-up that he wants to go for the belt again.
He wants another shot at the title.
Maybe one more fight. If he wins impressively, he could go for it. Maybe another fight.
Well, he's big enough. I mean, that surname puts bums on seats, doesn't it? It sells tickets.
He's still pay-per-view box
Anderson
office.
Silva, absolutely. Yeah. He's gold material.
And his style's still,
very, very good style.
Effective.
He's got a good submission game as well.
Yeah,
I mean, he submitted Dan Henderson all those years ago.
And Chael Sonnen in the 4th round.
Yeah, great.
4.5 rounds.
Yeah, epic. So who would he go for next year? Maybe Rockhold. Maybe that's something Dana's looking for, or Fertitta's are looking at,
I mean, I wouldn't put it past him to his next fight to be for the title. Like you say, if Rockhold wins, beats Weidman, which I think will happen.
I probably think that.
Weidman, Rockhold versus Silva. Potentially, he doesn't have to have another fight. He's done enough in the sport.
Yes, that's right. Looking back at what he's achieved, past achievements, he does deserve that.
And he looked good against Bisping.
Yes, he did. He came in on shape.
There was no obvious deterioration in the game. There obviously is with age, but to the untrained eye, he didn't look that nothing obvious.
And you've got to come in fit against somebody like Bisping because he can fight 5 rounds.
Well, he would have pushed him. Like you said, he knocked Silva down at least once. Was it twice or once? At least once. And the way Bisping fights, you don't get a rest. Bisping is chasing you around the cage, and he's throwing 3 or 4 punches in one go, then moving out, coming back.
I mean, you've got to say, MMA fighters, boxers, they must be amongst the fittest people in the world.
Oh, yeah. I think MMA fighters, because of the grappling and wrestling, but, yeah, boxers are phenomenally fit as well.
They're so conditioned, they take punishment, they give punishment, they have to remain constantly alert.
Vigilant.
So having that kind of...
And calm.
That tires you out. I mean...
Well, nervous energy alone can
ruin a fight. The adrenaline that's going through your body.
Adrenaline dump.
Everybody's watching you, the stress. I mean, goodness me, how they can do that. You've got to take your hat off to those guys.
It's absolutely crazy. It's phenomenal. Okay, moving on to Bellator 149, which the headline was Shamrock v Gracie.
Yes.
I don't know, did you catch any of that?
I did catch it. I mean,
well, there wasn't a long fight anyway.
No,
it was 2.5 minutes.
I mean, it was like watching a couple of guys who had an argument
old guys
in a pub,
on a Friday night.
I'll see you outside. They were there for the money, and I don't blame them.
It was a name-only fight, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was a strange one, really, going on past achievements. Like we touched upon earlier, Gracie changed MMA forever.
SRBRadio.com.
Yeah, Shamrock versus Gracie. I think Shamrock made an interesting point before the show. He was saying there is room for like a Masters, like in tennis. You have a Masters tournament, in golf, a Masters tournament. Guys generally over 40, 45. And Shamrock was saying there could be something like that, like a Masters event belt or whatever equivalent. It sounds good, but when you watch the fight, it didn't really have a presence of Masters. I mean, I think Shamrock literally didn't throw one punch in that 90 seconds or 2 minutes. He literally plodded. At least Gracie made the first move, got a hold. Okay, he did knee him in the balls, which does help if you're in a fight. But, he made the first move and got him. He pulled him to the ground, I think. He certainly pulled him to the ground and gave him a few hammer fits, and the referee thought he was over. But I don't think it was a good advert for a Masters.
I think you're right, and I think the trouble is, I mean, how long would the rounds be? Because if you're one of these guys who's 45 and 50, you're in reasonable shape, you can you really go 5 rounds or 3 5-minute rounds? I'm not so sure, and I think it might look a little bit.
You would have to shorten the rounds, maybe 2-minute rounds.
And is there a market? Maybe I mean, I watched Kimbo versus Dada. 5,000 and
man. Did you see Dada at the end?
Well, I heard he rushed to hospital. He had some cardiac problems.
He was literally exhausted.
I believe he's okay, so that's good.
I think he was in hospital a week or 2, but he was literally just flailing and just wandering around the cage, and then Kimbo went towards him, I think, threw half a punch. Kimbo was quite gassed as well, but Dado was just ridiculous.
Yeah. And that's the trouble. Once the technique goes, it looks messy, and I'm not sure it's a good advert for martial arts.
But I think with Dado, he was literally overweight, and
he was massively so.
And he probably didn't train.
Yeah,
because Roy Nelson, he's technically overweight, but he trains a lot, and he's generally got the cardio.
Well, do you remember when James Toney fought Randy Couture? And Couture's in shape, knows his strength, knows exactly what he's got to do. And within, 30 seconds of being on the ground, Toney was gassed and out. And that's the trouble. It's showing the side of things which are messy and scruffy, and it looks unprofessional when you can't defend yourself properly because you're just so exhausted.
And you can't move properly.
No.
With Shamrock, there was no... Okay, you can't expect the same bounce you had when you was 25, 35, as in bouncing on your feet, but there was no movement.
No grace.
No. There was no movement forward or back. It was literally just plodding until... And he'd at least throw a jab
I'm
or
not
a
sure,
kick.
and to answer your question you asked earlier, I'm not sure I'd want to watch that.
No.
Not when my alternative is Bellator, where they've got these supreme athletes, and the UFC, where you've got some of the fittest guys in the world.
Yeah.
So
I mean, even SFO or some of the other promotions, like you say, you want to watch guys at their peak.
Yeah.
Who've got their skill sets to primed to expertise. They've got their fitness to the pinnacle. They've got their diet. They've got their other stuff, recuperation. And when it happens, you can see it happening. But it sounded good in Masters type tournament. But in tennis, you can still see someone at 45 make a backhand to down the line.
They're in shape, and also
there's still a certain pace that you can appreciate.
Correct, and also maybe their bodies haven't quite taken the same punishment that these professional fighters have.
There is that, yeah.
And also maybe it's just a matter of time if they do go ahead with this division. Before somebody gets seriously hurt, because the technique, the defensive capabilities, and the recovery time, it's not going to help, is it?
Yeah, as you get older, and there is that element of wear and tear.
Well, you look at, just take JDS for example, or Vanderlei Silva or Diego Sanchez. The amount of punishment, not just in the octagon, on the nights and the professional fights, the gym wars as well, and the head trauma that these guys have gone through. And I think it's only really been the last few years where some of the medical councils are beginning to look into the possibilities of permanent damage through blows to the head. And when you look at the size of them, the MMA gloves, and the damage that... Remember when Shamrock fought Tito?
Yeah.
And he took, damage like that could really have an effect in later life.
Long-lasting effect, yeah.
And I'm just not sure, for the sake of money, it's worth putting yourself...
Money, yeah.
I don't think it's worth putting himself through that.
But I think there was a time when, I don't know what changed, but in MMA, where guys generally didn't take that much punishment if they got hit with those 4-ounce gloves, which is literally your fists.
Yeah.
After a few punches, generally guys would go down, either get knocked out or submitted. But I don't know, in the last 9 years, guys are taking a hell of a lot of punishment.
That's a good point.
The best example recently is Weidman Rockhold. Weidman was mounted for at least 40 seconds, 60 seconds, and Herb Dean should have stopped that after 20 seconds, because no way Weidman was not showing any positional change. He wasn't showing any wriggle. He wasn't moving.
Taking damage.
Exactly. He was literally... Rockhold mounted him, and he was just raining elbow and punch.
It must be very difficult for a professional referee. You don't want to upset the sponsors. You don't want to upset the UFC guys. You don't want to upset your boss.
The fighters.
But ultimately, the fighters, but ultimately, you've got to look after those fighters.
Their
and
health,
you upset the audience if you stop a fight too quickly. You're penalised if you don't stop it too quickly, and you're penalised if you do. So,
and the odd time it's gone the other way, because there's examples where
it's gone on too long.
Yeah, but referees haven't stopped the fight, and the guy that was getting battered came back and won.
Yes.
Yes. Shane Carwin, Brock Lesnar.
That's a fine example.
Yeah.
Frankie Edgar, when he was out, Gray Mednard, he smashed him.
You could have stopped that three times
fight
in the first round.
And then Maynard comes and drops him.
He got gassed in the second round.
Yeah, gets dropped, that's right.
Yeah.
So, it's very
like
difficult.
You say, it's extreme.
It's seconds, difficult. Fractions of seconds where the right decision or the wrong decision is made. But would I watch Shamrock fight Gracie again? No. I probably wouldn't. Would I want to watch Dada?
Or any other legend type?
No,
even Randy
no,
Couture at this stage? He's
no,
50
and
odd.
Couture's smart. I mean,
Yeah,
Couture
yeah.
got out at the top of his game.
He wants to keep his dignity.
That's right.
He's making money from movies.
Look what he's doing now.
Yeah.
And maybe that's Shamrock's drive, is the financial side of things, putting his own health at risk just to make a few extra bucks.
No, I think I agree with you there. Legacy should be, as the name suggests.
I agree, and I think
in the
Bellator.
back.
I think Bellator has to be careful as well.
Oh,
not to,
absolutely.
It's a bit of a freak show.
Yeah, it's a circus.
You know,
I mean, if they mix this up with their top talent, you know, like Ben Henderson's there now, Josh Koscheck can still offer something. Yeah. Paul Daly.
Yeah.
And those Michael Chandler, I think, is he the lightweight champion?
Yeah, Askren's there as well. Yeah. Great fighter.
No, Askren's now at One FC.
Oh, okay, he's left. Ago. Right.
But
okay.
yeah, people like that, promote them, and then maybe at the odd time bring these guys in just to spice it up. But you had Ken Shamrock, Kimbo, and then not the very next card, but soon after you and you had two dodgy fights. You had Shamrock v Gracie and Dada and Kimbo. But
it wasn't a pleasant night. But you know what? Clearly they think there's a market for it. You know.
Well, Scott Croker's no fool, is he?
Well, yeah, smart guy.
How much did he make at a strike?
Yeah,
millions.
Yeah. He's a smart guy. But I would have thought maybe concentrate on the fighters that can fight rather than the fighters that did know how to fight.
Once in a while, bring these in.
Yeah,
just a bit of interest, nostalgia, that kind of thing.
Gracie, you know, he's still got his technique. He looked in much better condition than Shamrock. I'm not sure Shamrock could have even carried on into the next round.
No. There was no real intent, movement, no real energy. He was just there. So. Yeah, shame. But moving on to some general news, really, around the MMA world, where I read on, I think it was Sherdog, Vanderlei Silva is going to fight Sakuraba.
Oh, right.
In a grappling-only match.
Oh, right.
Did you hear about that? Rizin,
No.
there's that new Japanese promotion.
That's right, yeah.
Which is the guy that headed up Pride. I can't remember his name, but he headed up Pride. He started Rizin, and over Christmas, New Year, they had a tournament. And Fedor came back and fought some nobody, Jagdeep Singh, who's got a 1-0 MMA record.
Yeah.
But they're doing another tournament or another promotion, another setup, and Vanderlei Silva's going to fight Sakuraba grappling, and it might be a tag team.
No, really.
Yeah. So
I'm going to watch it.
And,
Fedor, big fish in a small pond. You know, the Emperor. What can you say that he hasn't done? Should be in the UFC.
It's a shame he didn't come back at his peak 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. When Lesnar was around and Couture was around and Liddell was around. Yeah, it's a shame because he was
at his peak.
At
Couture
Pride
was pretty much at his peak.
Yeah, it was the fight.
And
Everybody
was Lesnar.
It was a fight everybody wanted to see.
Yeah.
But and I think fair play from what I can gather. Dana offered him a great deal, but
I think they wanted because Fedor and his manager they own M1.
Right.
It's the largely Russian promotion. I think they wanted to co-promote one of the UFCs that Fedor was going to fight in.
Okay.
That's what I've heard. I don't know if it's true, but I think that was the deal breaker.
Yeah.
Was that they wanted to co-promote and UFC said no.
Well, and that's
we'll give you a lot of money, but you're not co-promoting.
No, they've got to protect their own business interests, and the UFC is bigger than one fighter.
Which is why I'm surprised that they're letting Conor McGregor say things like that, because he said stuff like I might co-promote or I stand eye to eye. And
what is it? He came out with that classic line, and we're not here to take part, we're here to take over. Well, Dana realises Dana is Dana, but he's a smart guy and he realises which side his bread's buttered on.
Yeah, while he can
let kind of run his mouth off.
This guy, and it's never going to happen. They're never going to sign away 20%.
Well,
when they spent millions in the early days and lost millions, but obviously they're making millions now. But
Connor's very articulate as well, very entertaining, and he sells tickets.
Yeah.
So let him say what he wants. And
exactly, don't get too upset. And, eventually he'll lose 2-3 fights, and his star will be
and then
all
your
the way down.
stock goes down a bit.
Your stock goes down, and then naturally you start toning down, bringing your neck in a bit.
Yeah.
Not puffing your chest out so much, and he'll probably go away. But I think the next piece of action is to look ahead at April. And I think I said earlier, there's some really good cards. I want to start off with Khabib and against Tony Ferguson. Now,
Yes,
that's UFC Fight Night, and on that card is Evans v Shogun,
right.
and Dan Henderson v Machida.
So some big names coming up.
That's a UFC Fight Night.
That's a stacked card, yeah. So Tony Ferguson, what an absolute
He's
killer!
An animal. He reminds me of the Diaz brothers. He's got that slight craziness.
Yes, he does. And when he goes to punch you, he goes to take your head off.
Yeah.
He is.
His cardio is amazing.
How he's come on, he's boxing. I mean, he could
was
probably
a
be
tough season winner.
correct. Yeah, he could probably be a professional boxer.
And he's a very high level wrestler.
His wrestling is superb. He's got a game, that guy.
Yeah,
but he's
and
coming
he's got
up.
the heart to match.
Yes, he has. Very hard to hold down.
Yeah.
Very, very determined to win. Takes it personally. I mean, you're in a dogfight when you see his name on as your opponent. But Kabalov, it just shows a clinic in how to wrestle. He is so good at what he does.
Well, they've got that sambo stroke wrestling background, isn't it? So they got the submissions, the takedowns, the positional. I mean, the way he took over Dos Anjos.
I mean, you're talking about Dos Anjos, and he heavy hips that night. Dos Anjos could not do a thing, and
he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. And Habib wasn't scared of him. He just took him down, slammed him, picked him up, slammed him.
I just hope he doesn't get injured for this, because it was on, then it was off recently, then it was back on. So
that's the only thing. He's been out for 18 months.
Been out for a long time.
Yeah. And Ferguson's been active. I think 7 fights in a row he's won.
He
beat Barboza in
correct.
December.
He did. Barboza is a beast as well.
He's fighting Pettis.
Oh really?
Why
have they done that to Pettis? Who's Pettis upset? Oh my God! Barbosa's once again another time.
Yeah.
Barbosa's a world champion. It just happens to be a golden time in that division at the moment.
So who you gonna? We're previewing this, so I'll have to push you for a prediction.
So
Khabib or Ferguson?
Right. Well, head
toss of a coin, really.
Head is saying Khabib, heart saying Ferguson. I don't know that one. It's so
50-50.
tough.
All right, Evans v Shogun.
I think Shogun will turn up. I think he'll get a few digs in against Rashad Evans, but Rashad Evans is very clever.
Yeah.
Will do what he does well and wrestle.
He'll mix it up. Wrestle, punch, wrestle,
sit
distance.
on him, and do enough to get the unanimous decision, I think.
And good old our favourite Hendo. Machida.
Well, the H-bomb lands on you. It's good night, Vienna. But Machida,
but he has slowed down a lot, hasn't he?
Yes, he has, and he relies on that punch.
Pretty much 100%.
Lyoto, very clever. Lyoto's never taken that much damage over the years. Ex-world champion, you've got to say.
But in the last 2 fights, he got
probably Weidman
combined
did
all over.
Weidman did a job on him.
No,
Rockhold as well. That's right.
And Romero.
Yeah, probably in the last 3 fights, he's taken more damage than he has in the last
5, 10 years,
last decade or whatever.
Because his style, was
very
geared towards not taking
out.
damage.
That's right, in and out. Strike, correct.
Counter striking.
I'd still pick the Dragon over Hendo then.
So, yeah. I'm going Evans, Machida. I'm gonna go Ferguson.
Yeah, I don't know.
More active.
Yeah, Ferguson is just such a handful.
But I know what you mean with Khabib. They're just so ingrained in fighting. Dagestan, a caucus of Russia.
Yeah.
They're fighting every day.
Yeah, and he's just grown up he's got that natural strength,
Fighting.
that low base strength, that wrestler's strength.
Stockiness.
He gets hold of you, you're not going to go anywhere. So
they used to wrestle bears, didn't they? The kids have seen those videos.
If he gets hold of
right to passage.
Well, if he gets hold of Ferguson on that night, it's going to be a long night for Ferguson.
Yeah.
Ferguson's got a jab, stick and move, clinch, and just not get taken down, which sounds easy, doesn't it? So,
yeah, it sounds easy behind a microphone.
Yeah, exactly.
But so moving on to before we move on to UFC 197, Rothwell in April is fighting Dos
Yes, I saw a quote from
JDS's coach or something.
Yes, this morning,
He's
which
gonna be
said
guaranteed
vintage display. Well,
I hope so. I like JDS.
He's a gentleman.
Exactly.
You know,
he's a gentleman.
No
fighter.
one dislikes him.
Yeah.
Very, very likable behind the scenes.
It was quite sad to see him with Overeem.
Well,
He just didn't look the same.
The trouble with JDS is the punishment he's taken.
No.
I mean, how can
Since
you
that
possibly...
Kane second fight...
How can you come back from something like that?
He got 2 batterings from Kane.
It was a mauling, wasn't it?
5 rounds each time.
Yeah.
And then Miocic, he won it,
Yeah.
and he got mauled again.
Absolutely.
And his face comes up like an alien.
I don't even think...
Like an allergic reaction.
I think Miocic should have got the nod there, but I think they were setting JDS up for the fight with Overeem.
Yeah.
Overeem knocked him silly. Rothwell's on a roll, so I think I'm going with Rothwell at the moment. I think he catches JDS. JDS's chin is full of glass now, unfortunately.
But Rothwell's style is so weird.
He's awkward.
He stands up like a bear.
He's so awkward
He's
to
square
fight.
on. He's not side on.
He's on a roll. He's defeated some big names.
He's just a monster.
A huge guy.
Yeah.
And when he connects
and
fully
he
committed.
Josh Bonnet.
I mean,
Who submits Josh Bonnet?
Nobody does that to Bonnet, do they? They're the war master.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pick Rothwell there, and I hope Ben gets a title shot.
Yeah.
I don't know who the title holder will be at the time. It seems that Kane and Verdum aren't fighting just yet.
Verdum and Miocic are fighting in June.
I'm not sure stylistically. I'm not sure that's a good match for Miocic. I think Verdum has showed he's got such good hands, and once you go to the floor,
you're finished.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's one of the best Brazilian jiu-jitsu, probably the best Brazilian jiu-jitsu heavyweight.
Oh, easy.
I've seen.
Yeah, easy in the heavyweight and one of the best of all time.
Yeah. So Kane, that's the question. When's Velasquez coming back?
I think he's back in light training.
Okay.
But I think end of the year, possibly.
Well, then you're looking at
it's a shame because he's such a nice guy. And he's a warrior.
Yeah, that's right, and tough as nails.
Yeah, and his
so
fighting
good.
style. He's
so good
so
at what
aggressive.
he does.
Yeah, his boxing is amazing, and obviously he's a collegiate wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
But his just body seems to give way quite regular. So I hope he comes back stronger than ever.
Well, Velasquez was a phenomenal world champion.
Yeah, he was very dominant for the few defences that he did.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on to UFC 197, I think Khabib versus Ferguson is April the 16th,
right,
on a Saturday,
right,
and UFC 197 is April the 23rd, the following week. So April, and I think Rothwell JDS is the week before that.
It's going to be a busy April.
So April's a crazy month if you're a UFC MMA fan. So the Cormier card, I think I picked out the 3 first fights: Cormier Jones, Pettis Barboza. No, the co-main event is Demetrius Johnson and Henry Cejudo. So that's absolutely a magnificent card.
Epic.
But starting with Pettis Barboza, is that going to be a classic stand-up?
Well,
two gifted guys in stand-up.
Barboza is such a clean, crisp fighter. He'll take your head off with a left. He'll kick you to death.
His technique is just precision
phenomenal.
timing.
Yeah. He is such a gifted athlete. His footwork is good. Pettis, I'm not sure Pettis has recovered from the mauling that from Rafael Diaz. Sanyos gave him. Mentally, how strong is he? I don't know.
Because Alvarez, he smothered him. He had a game plan.
Spoiled the fight, really.
But wrestled to the cage.
But a great fighter overcomes that and finds a way to win.
You got to find a way.
And Pettis, once again, a fantastically gifted individual. World champion. No one submitted Benson Henderson.
And Gilbert Melendez.
Beat Melendez, beat Cowboy Cerrone in a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
He was on a real roll.
Do you think this is good for Pettis? Because
no, I don't think it is.
Because he's not going to get mauled. He's not going to get wrestled. So it's going to be stand-up.
Yeah.
So this gives him a chance to go toe-to-toe, literally.
Well, Barboza hits so hard he's so effective. Yeah. I mean, he almost beat Tony Ferguson.
It was Ferguson's ground game that got him through, because on the feet, he was definitely getting the better of him.
Potentially, Barboza is one of the best strikers in that division.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
So I think if I was pushed, I think I quite fancy Barboza on that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well,
I'm a big fan of Pettis, though. Yeah. But I just don't think he's shown.
He hasn't come back.
No, not the skills he showed to win the title in the first place.
Because even if he went to ground with Henderson, Gilbert Melendez took him to ground and he submitted him. And Henderson was trying to take it to ground and he submitted him, but with Alvarez he just couldn't do that.
Yeah, I know, very strange. I was quite disappointed in his performance that night.
Yeah, it was flat.
And I think, yes, flat. And I also think Pettis needs a big win to become relevant again in that division.
Yeah. 2 losses. And
3 losses, and Dana starts to look at that contract.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Pettis, is a superstar.
He is, and potentially to be a megastar, but you need that gold around your middle.
Whatever he's doing, he needs to do harder, and he needs to train for this Barbosa fight because Barbosa will come out because Barbosa, if he needs to start firing on all 4 cylinders. He's had some huge losses.
Yeah, and he needs a couple of good wins to be relevant for the championship.
And how can he be such a talented striker and not be world champion? No. It just shows
some fighters you look at and you just think they're going to be world champion.
But it just shows one of those. Yes, exactly. And it just shows how stacked that division
155,
is.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare for whoever's in that division.
Well, it's the skill sets of that division. You've got the massive wrestlers, grapplers like Khabib, Ferguson. You've got the strikers like Cowboy, Barbosa, Pettis, and Dos Anjos. He can do both effectively. Because when he fought Pettis, I thought Pettis would just kill him standing up, but it was completely the other way around.
I know.
You could see the shock in Pettis' face.
You could see the shock in Pettis' face
when Dos Anjos, when he hit him the first few times, that massive left.
Yeah.
And
it was almost. He was looking over to his corner.
Exactly.
Saying, what do I do?
What the hell do I do?
This wasn't meant to happen.
Yeah.
And RDA, he is a deserved world champion.
Yeah, absolutely. Demetrius Johnson.
What
Henry
can you say?
Cejudo. I like DJ.
Yeah, he's a gentleman off the field as well as, and
his game is just.
He's unstoppable.
I can't see a weakness.
He gets a lot of bad press, and I think the reason he does is because he's so successful
and nice.
No one stands a chance against that guy.
He's too dominant.
He's although this I read this morning that Henry apparently is a world gold medalist. Apparently,
Olympic gold medalist in Beijing 2008.
So maybe this is the fight that. Demetrius Johnson needs to elevate himself to that level. Not physically, but just in regards to pleasing the crowds.
Yeah,
because he walks through people.
Minds,
He walks through people so easily. I think he gets booed for it.
Yeah.
So if he can have a fight where it's a bit of a scrap and it's back and forth, maybe he'll bring attention to his likable style of fighting a little bit more.
But he's so quick. DJ. He's just lightning. And his technique is 99.99%.
The only guy I can see possibly giving him a hard time is Dominic Cruz, but can Cruz get down to that? I'm not sure he can get down to that weight. Cruz is quite big.
Cruz beat him at bantamweight.
It was at a different weight there, that's right.
135, because this is 125.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not sure Cruz would go down to 125.
But... I think Henry Cejudo has got a chance because he's obviously an elite athlete and he's competed in the Olympics. Well, he's won gold. But bringing Olympic wrestling, freestyle wrestling into MMA is only part of the deal. It's not going to... On its own, you're not going to finish fights.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu, you're going to finish fights. Submission wrestling, you're going to finish fights, or catch wrestling, as it is in England. But Olympic wrestling or American freestyle wrestling, you're not going to finish fights. It's going to help you set up fights.
Yeah.
So if you want to use your defensive wrestling, you can use your boxing and your kickboxing to finish a fight, or you can take them down, but you need some submission skills to actually finish them. But they don't learn it.
No, and I think that's
not the system.
I think that's a really good point, and I think also the fact I don't really know a whole heck of a lot about Henry, and that's because there's no one else left for DJ to fight. He's cleaned that division out.
And he has got a bit of a name because I think he was in WEC
Henry Cejudo
at that weight. So, and he's Olympic gold medalist.
So that's
you can build it up.
Yeah.
Olympic wrestler versus DJ, whose background I think is catch wrestling.
Right.
Submission wrestling, because his coach is Matt Hume.
Oh, is that right?
Because he's connected to... Did he fight in Pride? I don't think he fought in Pride, but he's coached quite a lot of people, and his background, Matt Hume's, is catch wrestling, submission wrestling, which goes back to Sakuraba in Pride.
Okay.
And there was a British wrestler was he from Wigan or from a gym in Wigan? Billy Robinson. If you do search on YouTube, he was a master catch wrestler, and he trained people in Japan.
Oh wow!
Sakuraba and Antonio Aoki and a few others. So there is that connection with Demetrius Johnson's coach Matthew, who's really into catch wrestling.
Yeah,
and people like Josh Barnett as well. And what's Josh's coach? What's his name? Oh God, he was a fighter as well. Josh Barnett's coach.
UFC fighter.
No, he never made it to UFC. He did other promotions. He's always in Josh's corner. Oh, what's his name? Their camp is called CSW. Catch Submission Wrestling. What's his name?
Bob Cook, was it?
No. I'm gonna do. You carry on. I'm gonna do a quick set. So yeah. So I think Henry's wrestling will take him so far, but
I think you alluded earlier to the fact that DJ does not have a weak part to his game.
Yeah, and
he'll submit you, he'll knock you out, he'll grind a decision.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched him against John Dodson, and Dodson, that guy is so quick. He's like a cat up a tree. But Demetrius Johnson just closed him down and beat him at every single aspect of their fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not that Dodson did anything wrong. It's just hard to do things right against someone as accomplished and skilled as Demetrius Johnson. If I was to have to pick someone, DJ, 100%. I think you bet the house on the fact he's going to win that fight. I just can't see anybody in that division getting close to him.
Yeah, I think DJ comes into shape all the time. He doesn't actually. I don't think he goes more than 5-10 pounds off weight during the off season. So he's literally not cutting any particular weight.
Could he go up? Do you think? Could he go up to 35 again?
I think
effectively.
Yeah, maybe with the more experience now he could. But I think he'll have to soon. If he beats Henry,
super fight,
exactly.
There's no one
if
left
he wants
to fight.
Money. He wants a bit of name.
TJ Dillashaw, maybe.
Yeah, that's
Dominic
135
Cruz.
is quite a stacked division. So, like you say, you can reel off 3 or 4 names straight away there.
I'd love to see him fight Dominic Cruz now.
Yeah.
I'd love to see him fight TJ.
Dominic Cruz and Uriah Faber are fighting.
Yeah.
It's either 198 or 199.
Now, is this the second or third fight?
Third it will be.
Right, so Cruz won one. Faber submitted him. And
so WEC Faber won.
Yes.
UFC Cruz won on points. And this would be the third. So it's 1-1, so it's perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect build-up.
And I love Faber. He's an interesting guy. He's cool, very respectful.
Californian dude.
Very
Surfer
good
dude.
at what he does.
Built his business, alpha male.
Yeah. Trained TJ. TJ. That was a great fight.
That's a bit of a soap opera, isn't it?
Yes.
He left my camp. He's not part of the family, but
he had a bit of a falling out with Bang Ludwig as well. But yeah, I like Faber.
Cruz is nice. Good guy.
Cruz
very
is superbly talented as well.
Yeah. Oh,
very, very clever fighter.
His footwork is crazy.
Yeah. I'd love to see the rematch against TJ Dillashaw. I presume that's how it's going to go.
Yeah.
Faber will probably lose to Cruz. Cruz then defends against Dillashaw. Because I've never seen Cruz get hit so much in one fight. And
Cruz,
some could argue that Dillashaw got that.
Yeah. It was one of those 50-50.
Very, very close.
But Dillashaw looked quite ordinary against Cruz. Cruz
does that to you.
Frustrated him in the first round and the first round and a half. Dillashaw was doing his footwork and they were sort of mirroring each other. But I think Dillashaw got frustrated that he wasn't getting close, but Cruz was getting close and getting out. And then Dillashaw went orthodox and he looked quite pedestrian.
Yeah,
until
I think
second half, third round.
I also think that it was damaging Cruz's legs. Towards the end, you saw Cruz limping off ankle and legs, and that stopped his mobility.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that was the right game plan for such a late part of the fight. I think, but Bang Ludwig should have said to him to start with, look, just kick his legs to death, and you'll immobilise him. Yeah. It's a horrible thing to do, but you're there to win, aren't you?
Yeah.
I'm not sure Ludwig is as good a coach as on fight night as he is preparing your fighter for the gym.
He might be a gym coach rather than a fight coach.
I think, rather than a strategist.
Like Greg Jackson.
Yeah, very clever.
Yeah, Matt Hume of DJ and Josh Barnett's coach. I was thinking of Eric Paulson.
Okay.
He's a submission grappler.
A big old fella.
Yeah, he's big now.
So going back to DJ and Henry,
who are you going to pick?
I'm going to go with DJ.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to the big one, Cormier versus Jones. First of all, have you seen Jones's training?
Well, he looks big.
Training?
He looks big. Is he going to find? Squatting? Well, he's going to find the diet down to 205. Is that going to sap him a little bit? I don't know. I mean, he looks huge. He looks like Anthony Johnson's kind of build.
Yeah, 220, 225.
Yeah, very, very big. I'm not sure. Why is this? What purpose is this exactly? Does he feel he needs to be stronger for this fight? What's his reasoning?
Well, if you look at the first fight, he did take down Cormier quite easily a few times. So he had the technique and the strength to do it. So why is he doing it now? Maybe it's to keep him clean. Because I think in the off season before, he used to go quite out of shape and quite plain, not very muscular and quite flat. So maybe this is to keep his shape, to keep his sanity, because he's got other things on his mind usually. So maybe this is to keep his sanity and to channel your energy into something positive. And the side effect of that is you're getting bigger, you're getting stronger. So when he hits Cormier, he should have more power. When he picks him up and throws him, he's going to have more power, and he'll have possibly more mobility.
Will it affect his stamina? With these bigger muscles, you require more oxygen. Your heart rate's got to work more.
Work harder.
You've got to breathe in more oxygen to try and make all that work, make that system work.
Yeah,
and
there's a big payoff.
Yeah,
it could do, but I think he'll carry enough body fat for him not to rely just on the short term or the quick muscle energy resource, which is glucose, which is in your muscles. If you've got enough body fat, your body will burn the glucose in the first 5-10 minutes, and then it'll move to body fat. That's why when you see you used to see the odd fighter who was really muscular, like a crazy six-pack and like 5% body fat, they used to gas out after a round or two.
And that's my concern.
Tyrone Woodley comes to mind.
Romero as well. That guy's just built and
still has a lovely six-pack.
Doesn't seem to have the stamina. But that would be my concern. Firstly, what Jones is weighing now, what he'll weigh on fight night, and what he'll have to get to for the weigh-ins at 205. I never really thought he needed any extra muscle to improve his game anymore. He's such an accomplished wrestler, great striker. Yeah. Maybe he's worried about the Gustafsson rematch, if that does come about, or the fight with Rumble Johnson, who is much stronger, I guess, basically. So maybe he's looking to the future. Daniel Cormier is a different fighter now. I think since he beat Rumble Johnson, since he had the great fight against Gustafsson as well. Yeah. I think mentally he has got that winner's mentality.
He's had the taste of the title. He's got the title.
He's going to be hard to beat.
So mentally he's going to be another couple of notches up.
I think so. Jones has been out of action and been doing the wrong thing for about 18 months now. Yeah. I'm not sure he is quite the same fighter he was either. So I'd have to say maybe Jones is a little weaker. And I think Cormier has grown into a stronger fighter.
And more active in the last...
Yes, more active. And big victories as well.
Months, yeah.
Not against journeymen. Two of the best guys in their division.
He took 2 or 3 massive punches from Anthony Johnson.
That's right.
And Anthony Johnson said it himself.
He would have floored a moose.
Yeah, exactly. He don't know how Cormier... He went down, but he came straight back up. So, like you said, his internal confidence, his inner confidence, must be through the roof now.
I think if Cormier...
So he must be thinking, Jones, whatever you want to throw at me, do your best.
I think if DC wants to win that fight, he's got to fight dirty. I think he's got to push Jones up, get him out of his comfort zones, throw him on the ground.
Rough him up.
I think he was a little...
No distance at all, just
get into his face, win ugly, and I think potentially he could win that. having said that, it's John Jones, one of the greatest fighters to ever
One
enter
of the
the
most
octagon.
gifted, greatest.
He's beaten
dominant.
everybody that's been put in front of him.
Yeah.
He's only lost being that controversial decision against Matt Hamill, so it was never even a loss.
Not a loss, yeah.
Some people might say that he lost to Gustafsson, which is his closest fight so far.
Yeah.
And I think he probably needs a fight against DC to prepare himself for the rematch against Gustafsson, and also to fight Rumble.
Yeah.
Because Rumble, is a different beast altogether.
Yeah.
I think,
So who are you gonna pick? It's one of those 50-50 really. Because like you say, you got Cormier. His confidence is up. He's been active in the last 8 to 12 months. Jones not fought in 12 months. Problems. Okay, he's training fantastically. He's obviously got Greg Jackson in his corner. Cormier's got Javier Mendez in his corner. He's a very good coach
very
and
good
a
strategist.
Strategist. So I'm going to go for Jones just as a punt.
I just don't know. I mean, the same situation with Ferguson and the Eagle here. My head is saying DC, but my heart is saying Jones.
Okay, cool. I think Cormier Jones. It's going to be a crazy build-up. Have you seen the build-up already, or?
Yeah, I've been
on
watching
Twitter.
Already the war of words is started.
On Instagram, Jones put that from that American sitcom, the black guy who's overweight.
Yeah, I saw that. And that's the trouble. That's what DC has to prepare him for. Is
that emotional warfare?
Yeah. And Jones is very good at that. Already,
I think Jones wants it, thrives on it,
and he laughs. It doesn't seem to affect him quite as
Cormier,
much.
He
takes it to heart.
Takes it to heart. He's more sincere, gentlemanly sort of type thing. Whereas
Jones is a dirtbag,
bit of a street kid and bit of a bitch.
But there's no rules when it comes to the mental build-up. It's going to be great fun.
Cormier and Diaz was fun for only 10 days. Yeah. We're going to get 6 weeks of this.
And it's going to be marketed to death.
Oh, yeah.
If I had to choose, I don't know. I'm going to go with DC on this one. I think he wants revenge, and I think it sets the third fight up nicely.
Could be UFC 200 if no one gets battered too much.
But then who does DC fight if he does beat the bona fide world champion?
Man might give him a straight rematch.
Yeah, you're probably right. The third match.
Yeah, that rubber match. Yeah. So, but if no one gets beat too badly, you could pencil that in for UFC 200. But if someone gets KO'd or TKO'd, then you need longer than.
I'm excited though. I intend to enjoy that match.
It's a hell of a card. Pettis Barboza. I think that's not the co-main event. That's the third fight. The co-main event is Demetrius Johnson and Henry Cejudo. Yeah. So it's a hell of a card.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that night.
There's some amazing mouth-watering stuff to look forward to in the next month and beyond. We've got UFC 198. Vadim Miocic. I think Faber Cruz is on the co-main event. Okay. It's either on that one or UFC 199 in June, which is Rockhold Weidman, the rematch.
The rematch, yeah.
So there's some. If you're an MMA UFC fan, there's some great stuff to look forward to. But thank you for being here, Marcus. It's been a great pleasure to.
I've enjoyed myself, and thanks for having me. And if you need any more help, please
have a chat and just chew the fat. And this is effectively the show by the fans for the fans.
Yeah.
There's no Wares and Gracies. It's just,
you mean I'm not getting paid for this?
you know that glass of water you had? You think that was free? But it's by the fans for the fans, and it's as we talk in the pub, in the gym. That's what we're doing now. Yeah. But if you want to contact the show, please email us on the MMA show number 7, numerical 7. So that's the MMA show 7@gmail.com. Happy to get your feedback and comments and any suggestions. So next month we'll be, just to recap, we'll be reviewing Cormier versus Jones, Rothwell versus Dos Santos, and Khabib versus Ferguson. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.
SRBRadio.com. The MMA show on SRB Radio.